So many times I was trying to escape my family and financially handicapped. And after so much abuse, I didn't know where to go because they had gaslit me for so long that people thought I was crazy when I wasn't. The Me Too movement was corrupt, and they covered up my family's crimes. They covered up the fact that Judith sold me to Harvey Weinstein. Those women were nasty to me. I did reach out to Carrie. She gave me this lawyer. I noticed all of a sudden Carrie was blocked. And if you're certainly interested of seeking justice, not only for yourself, but other victims, then you should know that the person that probably has the most knowledge about Epstein's network is myself.
Welcome back to Ego Was Here. Today I'm joined again by actress Paz de la Huerta, who will be responding to questions from viewers following her story.
Yeah.
Hello, my dear Paz.
Hi, beautiful Anna.
How are you, first of all?
Well, up and down. I still feel very vulnerable without proper legal counsel. This has been difficult. For example, today, if I ever escaped my family, they made sure to hold on to my belongings and things. One, to take away my voice. That was one of their tactics to erase me. So
Yes.
people wouldn't know about the abuse. When I had my show in Paris 3 years ago, they had one of my traffickers, Stella Larby, try to steal those paintings. And I told my friends to keep them safe. And that's the only reason I had my show in Paris and got a gallery. And then over the past 4 years since I've been safe, kept my acting award, kept my clothes. They took everything, precious things like paintings boyfriends have made for me. And every time I would have to have a third party get them, Judith would slip them or offer them money to give up my location. Yeah. So right now there's some paintings in Seville, over many years they had kept me in Seville where Christina has her stolen flamenco school. And I just painted. That's what I did. And my paintings deeply reflect the pain I was in and the abuse I was enduring.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm trying to get them back, but they're making it very difficult. And one of the retainers for my lawyers is a stolen art retainer. And it just seems like it's much better to go through lawyers because, I told my cousin Peter, I said, my cousin Peter, just to give you some background, he is the heir to the throne of Serbia. Right. Now, he didn't want to take the crown or whatever. Prince Peter Karađorđević of Yugoslavia, right? So I thought he was my first, but my father really was my first, right? And I later would become pregnant by Peter when I was 24. And Judith forced me to have an abortion because, these Satanists, and I just want to be open about something. I believe people have the right to choose, but I also don't believe that people should have their children murdered.
I couldn't agree more. Paz, one of the questions refers to that, what made you believe your family was connected to Satanism? And did you ever witness or experience any rituals yourself?
Well, yes, I was a victim of satanic rituals since I was an infant. The first one, I did one painting that I managed to rescue that someone is interested in putting in a movie, which is called How I Replaced memory of my mother with the Virgin Mary. And at 20 days old, Judith has one story, but the truth is another thing. They cut me open. I have a huge scar here that I can show you, well, at some point. They cut me open at 20 days old and had me operated on without anesthesia. Now, as if babies can't feel pain. Of course, as long as you're breathing and you're living, you feel pain.
Of course.
So I believe that was one of the first satanic rituals they did to me, and that was at 20 days old. And it continued, they all came out, it all was reflected in my paintings. Judith in New York, as a child, subjected me not only to the trafficking, but to all sorts of strange abuses with my body. Like, for example, my teeth. She would always have me go to because whatever happened here, the cystohygroma, they called it, but I know it was a ritual. They had me go to the dentist who would just do these unnecessary procedures on me, like pulling my teeth down, very painful things. Gave me these caps on my teeth, which are like piano teeth. I have very fine, they need to be whitened, delicate teeth. And, she's very ugly, my mother, on the inside and out, and all of her deep hatred for me came from her hatred for herself, you know? And a lot of it had to do with vanity. She was very jealous that my father was in love with me. And, she would have me go to the dentist. And then after this first ritual,
Hmm.
because of whatever they did to me at 20 days old, and all I know is that it's not normal to perform surgery on a 20-day-old child without anesthesia. Can you agree?
Of course. Of course.
Like, that's just not normal.
But do you have any memories of rituals as you were growing up?
Yes, of course I do. I have done some very deep therapy work, even while I was being trafficked 4 years ago in Madrid, that my father raped me with a knife. I have pictures of this knife, that my dad, I used to say as a little girl, I know they're going to leave me nothing. Just leave me with the knife. I literally would say that. He had his gaucho knife. And when I did deep therapy, because I would have pain down there after every violation, and I had a healer come to Madrid, and she did some somatic work on me, and the blood curdling screams that came out of me because of what he did to me. Okay.
Pass from your understanding, what do people who follow Satanism believe they gain from it?
My God. I mean, these people this is why dealing with them is so dangerous because they practice Darvo techniques. They don't have any concept of boundaries.
Hmm.
They have no concept of even laws. I have filed multiple lawsuits, even in the past 4 years. And evidence as close of an hour ago, Christina is still breaking the law. They're still trying to find me. They can't sue me. There's a reason no one has sued me. I haven't committed any crimes, and I'm telling the truth. For years, their ways to intimidate me was defamation. No, this is not defamation. I have ample evidence. So they couldn't sue me for defamation, so they tried to kill me. So what do they practice? What do they believe? They believe money is power,
Hmm.
for one, which is not true. I'm a devout Christian. Money is not power. It's not power.
Love
It,
is the power.
love is power. God is power. Money is not power. And you can just see how miserable they are when you look at their faces. These people are reptilian. What do they believe? They believe in control. They want to control and micromanage everything. It's all about control. That's it's a very I can't believe what my life used to be like. I can't believe what it was. Yeah.
As another question is, have you reached out to anyone who is part of the Me Too movement for support or advice?
Well, I have a very deep belief system about the Me Too movement. I am not a fan.
Why
I
so?
Well, I know from Anna Key Lucas, who was a satanic ritual abuse survivor, that the Me Too movement was co-opted, meaning it was corrupt. And they covered up my family's crimes. They covered up the fact that Judas sold me to Harvey Weinstein. Those women were nasty to me. They bullied me. They were not nice. But that doesn't mean I didn't reach out. I share updates on my TikTok. I made an update this morning when I was looking for a penalist in Paris. I had reached out to Carrie Otis, who gave me the name of this woman, Anne-Claire Lejeune,
Mm-hmm.
and I retained her, but she only filed a suit in France against both my parents for incest that happened as a minor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with the release of the Epstein's files, and I'm sorry, I filed this complaint 3 years ago, and I kept saying my situation is much bigger than this. Now, with the release of the Epstein files, you're going to tell me, Arnaud Brunel is my father's best friend. They share a driveway. I've suffered assassination attempts. No one can deny a truck hit me. All you have to do is go on YouTube to see that footage. No one can deny I had a brain injury during the Me Too movement. I can send you the MRI or the lethal amounts of drugs they were putting me on. And anyway, just to bring you to this story, I did reach out to Carrie. She gave me this lawyer. I noticed all of a sudden Carrie Otis blocked me.
She blocked you.
Oh, very weird. Yes. So I just was asking her for an Iboga clinic because I believe in plant medicine.
Mm-hmm.
She blocked me. Didn't do anything to her. It's another example that those women have not been supportive of me, and they don't have any reason not to be. And I said in my TikTok video, I said, Carrie, if you have a problem with me, write me, text me, tell me what it is. Tete-a-tete, woman to woman, let's talk. And if you're certainly interested, because she was apparently a victim of Jean-Luc Brunel,
Mm-hmm.
Arnaud's brother, of seeking justice not only for yourself, but other victims, then you should know that the person that probably has the most knowledge about Epstein's network is myself. So she's really she is the last woman in the Me Too movement who's behaved so disgracefully with me. And because she found me this last penalist in France, I wrote a letter to Anne Claire yesterday. I said I haven't felt protected by you and I'm seeking new legal counsel in France. I also wrote a letter to Macron, the president
Mm-hmm.
of France, and he did not write back about my family. And then I went, reading things, and I read that Macron is one of Epstein's allies. And I know that my family, the statue of Baphomet, so you ask about have I witnessed things in
Yes.
about 2015 in Paris. I was staying in an apartment opposite my father's best friend, a Russian aristocrat named Serge Protchenko, and they had me come over. And there was a statue, much like I have this statue,
Mm-hmm.
it's of Satan. Yes. By a very famous sculptor named Jean-Jacques Fouché. And this statue happens to be worth billions. And it belongs to my father's best friend. And I went up to it because, these people, it's like a Roman Polanski movie. It's like Rosemary's Baby. And I'm like looking at it. And he's like, I mean, we have to have some sort of sense of humor.
Of course.
And he's like, "Oh, well, do you like it? Do you like it?" Da, da, da. And I was just frightened. No, no, I the darkness that I witnessed in these people, my family, and others I was subjected to in my life was not something I wanted to align myself with. But
So,
yes, the Me Too movement, and I have no problem saying this, is
mhm,
totally co-opted. And a number of very corrupt lawyers covered up the fact that Judith sold me to Weinstein and journalists. Okay, like during the Me Too movement, and I've said this before,
mhm,
there's a difference between being crazy. There's a difference between being a drug addict, and there's a difference between being injured. Now,
yes.
I have an MRI to prove it. I was injured. I was also still under the control of the very people who put Harvey Weinstein in my life, and they did not want me to testify. They even had me do a very humiliating interview in the Untouchables movie with Ursula McFarlane with the brain injury. And as if the brain injury wasn't enough, they hired a satanic psychiatrist in New York named Ricardo Castaneda. And I've listed the list of medications on my TikTok videos. Who put me on? I'll give you an example of some of the names of the medications. One was called Safris.
Mhm,
Safris is an antipsychotic. This is a heavy sedative that only really crazy people need to take. That was one. They put me on another sleeping pill called Belasomra, which is like, heaviest. These are all at the same time. They put me on flurazepam, which is basically a barbiturate that is illegal now
mhm,
in the United States. They put me on Vyvanse, which is an amphetamine. They had me basically on a cocktail that was the equivalent to a speedball on top of the brain injury. Because the brain injury, basically, in 2016, I know it's a lot of information, they paid Aaron Filler, who now, yes, we are reopening the Weinstein case in America.
mm.
And we are going after Filler, this corrupt doctor, lawyer who made my life a living hell, who was always Judith and Christina's lawyer. I thank God to your podcast and the other good people getting my voice back. I've gotten a lawyer to take my case on contingency in LA. And we're not only reopening the Weinstein case, we're going after all the fraudulent hospitals where they tortured me in California.
Oh my God, Paz. You have been through so
Oh,
much.
so much. I'm sorry.
Paz, have you been contacted by anyone from your past willing to testify?
Well, now that my story's become more public, for example, last night, this guy Luke, I remember him from New York. When I saw his face, I immediately remembered him. He's a hairdresser. He found me on my private Instagram.
Hmm.
And guess what? He told me, I remember in 2006 you telling me about Weinstein and your mother. 2006. This is long before any Me Too.
Yeah, this is 20 years ago. It's amazing.
This is a long time ago. I, you know, what is there to say? I have never lied, and I have risked my life exposing these people.
Have you been threatened for naming names?
Well, I only stopped like 4 years ago in Madrid when Judith and Christina had me in the under €50 a night hotel where I was being trafficked. I didn't want to sleep alone at night, and I had no access to money. And we're talking about people that have, you know, $600 million, and I have to be in an under 50 euro a night hotel. I have emails to prove everything. I, before the Epstein files were released about 5 months ago, I decided to take my power back. 'Cause, like I said, I don't know why I don't have a book deal yet, many things. And I started reading my story on TikTok and reading printed statements. Before I escaped them, I made all my traffickers write statements. I printed them out. This is the book. I printed them out, and I was contacted by someone anonymously who told me to print it out and to keep it in a safe.
Yes.
So I have, and I have those printed, and all those people have disappeared. So, yes, I only recently, after retaining this new Spanish penal list, which my aunt found me, my aunt Frances has been my only support in the family. Um, I didn't want to sleep alone at night, so I would beg this Down syndrome retard girl, Almadena, to sleep with me, because my father and other men were doing what they were doing.
Hmm.
But she was working for the family. So not only did she accept money to have people sleep with me and torture me, she would also make me beg her to stay. And then she would fake these panic attacks because their plan was either for me to kill myself, but not really kill myself. They killed me, frame it, or put me in a mental hospital the rest of my life. So, these people tried to torture me and abuse me to such a satanic degree that I would have killed myself. And then they wanted to frame it that I was just some hot mess and a drug addict. I've had a therapist come forward, a good one, Harriet Fraud, who
Hmm.
can't be bought, who wrote a statement and is willing to testify, who said, yes, I witnessed what you went through. And Christina and Judith used Darvo techniques to frame that you were ungrateful for your help, and they profited off your talents and your youthful beauty and your money. Money. They took a lot of
Yes.
money.
Paz, another question is, have you gotten any unexpected support from someone in the industry
Not yet. Oh,
lately?
oh well, I mean, Walking Westwood show last week. God, this was so beautiful, right? Because Vivian, this is a woman who Vivian, oh, dear Vivian, her whole philosophy about what she does as a designer was about punk, and she really cared about climate. That she did something, the climate revolution. She was such an intellectual, and she was so brilliant, and I knew her. But when I knew her, I was being abused and trafficked, and she was very worried about me.
Hmm.
And mind you, once she shut down the entire backstage of her show, which was around the Me Too movement. So I had the brain injury, and they were drugging me and controlling my finances. And I must have seemed to the normal person like a total lunatic, right? That's what they wanted people to think.
Of course, yes. Mm.
So I went to the show, and she shuts the backstage, but I was, they put me on lethal amounts of amphetamines. Of course, it didn't make sense. And I had a brain injury. They must have been terrified. It was not only humiliating, and then shortly after that, they had me falsely incarcerated in Seville. So it was all a setup and a plan because they didn't want me to testify against Weinstein. You get it? They did the same thing to Karen Mulder. That woman was one of the first people to speak out about Epstein. They ruined her career and put her in a mental hospital.
Yes. So,
So now, since I ran away
mhm.
and I took the bit of that settlement money, though my new lawyers in LA understand that we can reopen the Weinstein case. For some reason, they will have to explain as lawyers. Um, let's just say, in the past years that I've been healing, I think Andreas, who's still alive, sees that I'm well now. And I just did a movie in Barcelona, and they called me to come walk the show. And this was so meaningful to me because I'm gonna cry. I felt so alone, you know,
I know, I know.
and nobody was supporting me. And like so many times I was trying to escape my family and like financially handicapped. And after so much abuse, I didn't know where to go because they had gaslit me for so long that people thought I was crazy when I wasn't. And Vivian was one of the only people who knew something was not right. And I remember like getting on a plane, a one-way plane to London once. I'm sorry.
No,
They
no.
stopped they stopped the plane because they had hijacked me on amphetamines because they wanted people to think I was crazy. But the point is that Vivian was one of the only people that cared. And I was just really happy that Andreas had me walk the show because they see the truth that I wasn't crazy and that they were abusing me.
Paz, do you regret not speaking out sooner
I
about?
tried speaking out in 2006. These people have not left me alone. That's the truth. No one has wanted to move on with their lives more than me. Anytime I've had a boyfriend, they would separate me from my boyfriend. They made my life impossible. They still make my life impossible, paying off all my lawyers, leaving me so vulnerable to fight them. I'm sorry, it's just terrible. Even today with my stolen art, very triggering for me. These are my paintings. This is my soul. I have to fight to get my art back.
Paz, do you feel the justice system has been supportive of you as a survivor?
Only the lawyer in Madrid, he's the only one that has actually won cases for my aunt against my father, and only since I retained him did I stop getting death threats from these total thugs that I was put in a cheap hotel with in Madrid and raped for a year with. No, he's the only one that's helped me. I spoke out on my TikTok that I'm very disappointed in the last French penalist. How dare Cariotis block me as a real victim? And what a stupid thing for her to do, you know? I know more about Epstein and his network than anyone. Arnaud Brunel is the financier of Jean-Luc Brunel and Epstein, and he's my father's best friend. And I have no doubt the people putting up the money for the assassination attempts against me. I mean, let's forget her. I will just say calmly, the Me Too movement is not good. Even Anarchy Lucas says they're co-opted, they're corrupt. Now, even my aunt told me to file a claim against this lawyer in Paris, but I
Hmm.
don't think it's worth it. I'm just going to open a new case with new lawyers. And honestly, you're a beautiful woman, but I actually feel safer with a male lawyer. Unless they're very Christian. The lawyer I retained in LA is a very kind Christian woman who had also been abused.
Hmm. So your story is gaining more visibility now.
Thanks to you.
No, no, only thanks to me, thanks to everyone who is sharing your story. You know, there's so many people out there sharing your story, and it's wonderful
Thanks,
to see
Lou.
all
Thanks,
this support. Tell me, Paz,
thanks.
how does it feel to see so many people learning about what happened to you?
Well, I think it's helping my healing process. I think I was in survival mode my whole life, that I didn't even allow myself a moment to cry, to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll just find myself sobbing, you know, and I just remember more things.
Mm. Yes. And what are the messages that you're receiving now from people who want to support you?
More support. Yeah, people say they're praying for me, which is very nice. Um, there's one man that has been following my videos on TikTok who donated quite a bit of money to my GoFundMe, and he wants to remain anonymous, but he also believes in my vision of having orphanages, which is really my dream.
Mhm.
Um,
How many journalists or media outlets reached out recently to cover aspects of your story that weren't shared before?
I'm confused by what's happening with my book. Um, I can't see why right now wouldn't be an opportune moment for the New York Times or Vanity Fair or Airmail to tell my story.
Hmm.
So unless they're corrupt, it seems suspicious. I don't get it. I do know that New York Times wrote very flattering articles about Christina's real estate deals and Epstein's, but has yet to tell my story. I do know that I purposely, once I got safe, wrote letters to different journalists as a test.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I wrote Jodi Cantor a letter from the New York Times, woman who was responsible for exposing Weinstein. I said, I'm finally safe. I need to tell my real story. She didn't write back. Look, Epstein is another, you have to understand, these people are Satanists and they're dangerous and their network is global.
Yes.
And there
Yes.
are a lot of people that are involved in covering up their crimes.
Mm.
Judith Bruce works for the Population Council. The Population Council is funded by the Rockefellers. These are very wealthy people. Now, I believe that Judith Bruce is more dangerous than Harvey Weinstein. I know so. In Vanity Fair, during all that, there was an article when he was arrested. I think it was Rebecca Keegan. She asked me, how do you feel about his arrest? I said, I can't stop crying. And the reason I couldn't stop crying was because the person that put him in my life was not in jail yet. And I knew that my hell was not over. And the reason I'm still crying today is because those very people are still free. So I want to say, if the FBI is watching this, if Homeland Security is watching this, if a non-corrupt lawyer with a good heart is watching this, what will it take for the authorities to let Paz de la Huerta finally live her life in peace and hold these evildoers accountable for their crimes against me, not just me, and other victims? I need to see my father behind bars. I need to see Christina behind bars, and I need to see Judith behind bars, and all of their henchmen. At what point, you know, they are old now. It's me whose life they've sucked the life out of. I have not deserved any of this. I filed for orders of protection against these freaks 4 years ago. I have a message from Christina today contacting my friend. These people are dangerous, and it's going to take a very good detective. And I called the DA's office yesterday. I'm going to call them on Sunday. Just got to go to Seville. You have to go to New York City, go to 311 Greenwich Street, put handcuffs, and just be done. I need to be done with this chapter of my life.
Paz, you said that your aunt is the only member of your family that you can trust.
Yes, the only one. I thought I could trust my cousin Natalia, but then she disappeared with thousands of dollars of clothes of mine. And, you know, I had recorded our conversation. She didn't write honest statements. These people just, the truth of it all is they're narcissists. They lack any of their own talents, any morals, and they don't have anything going on for themselves in their life, so they have to feed off of others. And they all fed off of me to the point that if I didn't fight back, I would have died. And and Michael Rebel had told me so many years ago, run away, run away. When they had handicapped me financially, it was virtually impossible. The only reason I got free was because I knew the Weinstein settlement was coming in, which Judith intended to steal. I removed Aaron Filler and I took the money to get safe. And that doesn't mean that their harassment and stalking hasn't ended. No,
Couldn't your aunt help you run away earlier?
no, because they isolated me. Do you realize that my Instagram is private?
Yes, of
Okay,
course.
it has to be.
Mm.
Anytime I had Instagram before, they had it taken down. Judith even stole my American number. They took everything from me. I was a no person. And the only reason I've gotten my voice back as much as I have is because when I finally got that bit of money and ran away 4 years ago, I was contacted anonymously. She said, keep your Instagram private and don't stop speaking out and call Homeland Security and the FBI every day. Now, they isolated me. I had no safe. I was in a under 50 euro a night hotel with a girl with Down syndrome having my body brutally raped by my father every night. The only place I was safe was church. Not even anyone in Madrid during this time helped me. My friends Oscar and Marcos, they they would let me sleep at their house sometime, but I literally spent all my day in church because it was the only time I was safe. No, they handicapped me financially, isolated me. This is what Satanists practice. Um, Divide and conquer.
Oh,
It's
yes.
about
Yeah, that's a
it's about
tactic. Yes.
it's a tactic.
Yes.
That's what they did. That's what they did.
Paz, are there still parts of your story or people that you're afraid to share or name?
I hope to get more protection legally, but honestly, when you literally survived a truck hitting you, a brain injury, drugging on lethal amounts of medication, what else? A beating that I have pictures of my father's last beating. My body is black. I literally had like the Holy Spirit move through me. So these people, whoever you are, any woman in the Me Too movement that hasn't, you know, spoken up for me, a number of people, no one can deny these things happened to me. And if you are okay with these things happening, then you must be a Satanist because these are really serious crimes against humanity. and it only reflects badly on you. So no, I'm not afraid to expose anyone. It took me a very long time, and it took one of these assistants coming forward that happened to be a Christian. I have her just testimony, Felicia Moradian. She once called me and she goes, "But Paz, you haven't committed any crimes. You haven't done anything wrong." They tried to intimidate me my whole life so I wouldn't go to the police.
Mm.
When I finally got that message and I took the plant medicine and I started piecing it together and I realized what was happening, who wanted to hurt me and why. Who do I have to be afraid of? You people who have not supported me, Jane Fonda, Rosanna Arquette, any of you, a number of you depraved people. Jane was at my mother's 50th birthday. Do you know what she said to me as a young girl?
What?
She told me that I wasn't healing fast enough whilst I was being trafficked to Weinstein. She told me that Jack Nicholson, who was one of the only people that tried to protect me and offer me shelter and a safe place, would not protect me. She was incredibly nasty to me. In fact, she's bullied me my entire life. And she's best friends with Rosanna Arquette, who also bullied me during the Me Too movement. Am I afraid to expose you people? No, because you are the narcissist, you are the Satanist, and you have behaved so terribly bad. If you can see a beautiful woman in an under 50 € a night hotel being brutally beaten and raped by her father and have nothing to say about it, then there must be something seriously wrong with you, and you shouldn't have children, and you shouldn't be pretending to be doing good for the world. Well, I'm not afraid of you. If you want to threaten me with the lawsuit, I will sue you. I will sue every corrupt journalist in the Me Too movement that covered up my family's crimes. I am not afraid of anyone. I'm incredibly smart. I speak Spanish. I speak French. I speak English. I know the judicial system in Spain. I know it in France now, and I know it in America. I know it in every different state. I've had my boundaries crossed for a very long time. I was totally dehumanized.
Paz, can we answer a question that I get really often
Yes.
regarding Marilyn Manson? Because in
Yes.
2020, there were public claims by Love Bailey and others that
Um,
Marilyn Manson had sexually assaulted you. Can you clarify what actually happened between you and Manson, and what's your side of the story?
yes, I have no problem. So what happened? Basically, I was living at Jeffrey Deitch's. Ellen von Unworth, who, I've remained friends with, and she's taken some very beautiful pictures of me,
Hmm.
was taking my picture. And I think Marilyn wanted to do a shoot or something, and Bailey was styling. And we ended up going to Marilyn Manson's house. And I've said it in other interviews.
Hmm.
No, Marilyn Manson did not rape me. I will tell you, did we drink alcohol? Yes. Did we do cocaine? Yes.
Hmm.
Did we laugh and joke and act crazy? Yes. Was Marilyn Manson a drug addict? 100%. But I don't believe he's a predator. In fact, when I was homeless a number of times, made homeless by my family over the years,
Hmm.
I'm sooner to protect someone like Marilyn Manson than I am someone like Amanda de Cadenet, who's interviewing Hillary Clinton. Because Manson was one of the few people that, when I needed some money, sent me money or called mutual friends to see if I could stay there. It was incredibly hard, you know, um, as a beautiful woman, and I'm also a kind woman. Those women didn't want to help me. Many times when I was homeless, I had no one to reach out to. and I would call ex-boyfriends, not wanting to sleep with them, but because
Hmm.
I needed safety. And
Yes.
I would get messages from their wives saying, "She doesn't want you." So nobody would help me. Who was I supposed to turn to? This is why I ended up in church and
Yes.
animals. You know, my therapist had written that book about animals called Animal Angels. And when I rescued my dog, she needed a safe place, and we ended up on this farm. And that's when the healing really started to begin. So, no, Marilyn Manson did not rape me.
Yeah.
Can I speak for other victims, other people? No. But what I do
Hmm.
know is that there are a lot of very insecure, narcissistic women out there that are willing to say a lot of things for attention. And I was never one of those people. I was, what I've only wanted in my life was to be left alone, to have married a number of men that I've loved, and to have a child. And I still want that. And to see financial retribution. Alone, I've worked since I'm 10 years old as an actress. Why should Judith see my earnings for the films I've made? That's my work. Why should Christina have my paintings? I was exploited in every level. What I want now is financial retribution. I want to buy a home, and I'd like to have a family. I've always been that kind of woman that I just, I believe it's a man's job to protect a woman.
Hmm. I think it's everyone's
It's all
responsibility to
about
protect, you know, fellow human
people.
beings.
Yeah, but unfortunately, and I will just say, unfortunately, and I will tell you, so much depravity goes on in Hollywood. When you're dealing with an industry of people that want attention,
Mm.
you attract two kinds of people, and you're an actress, you know. Sometimes you'll get a real artist who's genuinely
In love with
driven,
his art.
in
Yes.
love with the
Mm.
art,
Hmm.
driven by the craft. And then you get these charlatans, these clowns that just want to, what are they
Attention.
doing?
Hmm.
So you attract two kinds, and the vampire kind is very dangerous to my kind. They come at you like that.
Yes. Yes. Paz, can you tell me your happiest moment in the industry?
Maybe I haven't had it yet. I loved walking the show for Vivian last week. I was so happy. Here I am, not one pill in my system. I smoke cigarettes, right?
Hmm.
This will be the last to go. But I got up on that runway. You're talking to a woman whose family started drugging her at 5 years old. Imagine the courage it's taken for me to free myself alone of the substances that they used to poison me with so they could abuse me. I don't have not even an Advil in
Hmm.
my system. So for me to be very in tune with Christ, who I'm close with, and to get up on the runway and look beautiful and feel beautiful was a very nice moment.
And you looked stunning.
Thank you.
You were awesome. Awesome. So,
Thank
Paz,
you.
give us all the updates. What is going on now?
Oh, I'll give you some updates. So when I was doing this movie in Barcelona,
Mm-hmm.
I noticed, I'm very smart. And I always have to, I also have to stay clean because of the severity of my situation. I
Hmm.
have very corrupt, powerful people that would like to harm me.
Hmm.
So I noticed little things. Two suspicious people tried to follow my Instagram account. I'll tell you who they are.
Hmm.
Zabel. Remember this name. Just
Zabel.
remember it. If you go in the Epstein files
Mm-hmm.
and you type in um, this name, it was Epstein's lawyer. Yeah. And guess whose else lawyer it is? Guess whose else? It's Christina's. Okay.
Yeah.
So their
Not
children,
how to
his
make the
children,
connection.
yeah, you got to make the connection because these people are all connected. So William D. Zabel's lawyer, Epstein and Christina's lawyer, their children, because I Googled the family name, tried to follow my Instagram, my private Instagram account. I blocked them. That was something that happened. Um, and then this thing with the paintings. And then, you know, I am only confused as to why the guy who's supposed to be co-writing my memoir and my book agent aren't more responsive to my emails and aren't using the fact that the Epstein files are exposed to write a very good article about my story right now.
Because that's the
Especially
perfect timing right now.
yeah, I'm very confused and I need to get a straight answer and I'm gonna have to draw some serious boundaries. I feel honestly disrespected. And he's supposed to be the most famous writer. And I really did like my meetings with him, but I'm also a human being and I said angels need protection too. And you know, they're out there. Everyone that wants to harm me is spelled out in the Epstein files. Judith cannot get her voicemail taken down and I'm still left. You know, these people can't sue me, but they can fucking find me and kill me. The fact that, you know, I still have to, you know, even for the stolen art, send this guy in Madrid money. It's costing me a fortune. And it's not always promised because there's so much corruption in the judicial system. What I need is a very good journalist to tell my story. And I would think right now would be a good moment. I wrote them a letter. I said, you know, I found a lawyer in LA to take my case on contingency.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why aren't you going to write an article about it? They're going to open up the Weinstein case because they can,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to go after the institutions. Please write an article. What I do know after a lifetime of lawsuits is that the press helps. You need the press.
Paz, what's the biggest misunderstanding people have about your past?
My life up until 4 years ago was a lie. It was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you read about me, the only thing that wasn't a lie was my art, and they stole my art because they knew my real story would get told. When the Interview magazine, let's give respect to a publication like Interview that actually did write an article. So when I rescued those paintings, that was the first article that started to get my voice back. Can you imagine? I almost didn't rescue those paintings, and that article would have not happened. This
Mm.
is why they've held on to all my things. My clothes, they took everything from me. When I was homeless in LA after my father's last homicide attempt, I ran away, meeting with a lawyer, but that lawyer only was trying to steal my Weinstein settlement. And I was at Cafe Stella, and I met Boz Lerman, who I really would like to call me. I met Boz Lerman, and I looked at him, and he said that I reminded him of La Reine Margot. And we started talking, and I just said, if it gets too much, I'm just gonna go to the sea. And he told me to come to his table. And we spoke a while, and he looked at me and he said, they took everything but your soul. He said that to me. And he asked for my number, and he said, what about the real Mary Magdalene? But I didn't even have a phone or a number to give him a number. Now I have his assistant's number. and I email, and I've written some emails. Now,
Hmm.
what I would tell to the audience about my life, I was terribly exploited in traffic. I have no problem with any photographer or director in the industry I have worked with, unless they haven't supported me. Because what I did enjoy was my work as an artist, whether it was modeling, acting, or painting.
Hmm.
I am not trying to suit everyone. I want to feel respected and validated from myself as a brave human being, as an artist. If you wanted Judith and Christina to get paid for my work, you should have hired them. One of my retainers that I can't afford yet, and I have to file this year alone for the conspiracy fraud, is for my earnings that they stole.
Hmm.
Since I was a child, they took everything from me. They made a lot of money off of me. I deserve to see that. So I would, if anyone in my industry is watching, Martin
Hmm.
Scorsese, I really loved working with you, Scorsese. Please support me. You know, like I loved working with you. I have this award. Like you're one of the directors' support I need to see. Actually, another positive,
Hmm.
Jack Nicholson's daughter reached out to me. And
Oh, see, Paz?
and
See how many people love you and
well,
support you?
yeah, she wrote she supports me. I love Jack so much. And Lorraine, his sweet daughter, and to get her support meant a lot to me. And Jack was one of the only few people, he told me I had to write a book about my life, and a few times he offered to let me sleep at Mulholland. And no, he actually was a protective male energy in my life. Yeah.
And that's beautiful. So, Paz, tell me,
Mm, sorry. I'm very
what?
emotional today.
No, I know, I know.
Sorry.
You've been through so much. I think that it's because you're healing and you're
Yeah,
letting this bad
thank you
energy
for
out.
giving me. Thank you for being one of the first. You know, you don't know how many journalists have been paid off or have been paid to cover up my story. I know you're not Vanity Fair, but you're a kind woman
And I'm
giving me
not a
your platform.
journalist.
Oh, sorry, actress, giving me your platform to have my voice heard, and this means a lot to me. Yeah.
Paz, that's the least I can do. And, you know, I think because before you said, men should be supporting women. And as I said, people should be supporting people.
I agree, and I'm happy to be finding kind women. I had to make my TikTok public because
Hmm.
I got tired of looking to old friends to support me. I'm not going to look to the very people that sought out to destroy me to get my voice back. Fuck those people. So when I made my TikTok public, you know, the average Joe hearing my story is pretty fucking horrified.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten some apologies, but forgive, but you don't forget.
Yes.
And I will just say that um, there was a saying I saw, and that's why what they did by taking away my voice, Boz Lerman also saw that when he met me. He said, they took away your voice. He said, is so evil because, you know, I will just say that it left me totally vulnerable to predators and with no way to defend myself. And then I wrote a beautiful poem that, you know, there are those who are loud when you lose, quiet when you win, and then there are strangers. That is very powerful. The strangers kind of keep the score,
Mm, yes.
and that's what I need. I need real strangers to know the truth and keep the score.
So people will share clips of this episode as they did with the previous two. Um, if there's one sentence you want everyone in the world to remember about your experience and your truth, what would that be?
I would say don't be afraid. Don't let people bully you, because I was bullied my whole life. Don't let people scare you. There's a beautiful Rilke poem called The Song of the Orphan.
Mhm.
And I think the last line is, I have this one dress this one wisp of hair that once somebody loved, but it will last in eternity in the eyes of God. So I would say no matter how alone anyone feels out there, there's always a much higher power, and that's Lord. That's Jesus. Jesus sees all. So no, you're never alone. You have God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paz, thank you so, so much for being here.
Love you,
It's
Anna.
always a pleasure to see you and to share your story.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
thank you too. And to all of you out there, as we always say, Paz was here. Ego was here.
You're so cute.
Ego was here. You were here. And that's enough.